Well, usually I start the episode of saying hello and welcome, but I just thought it would be funny to mention that Jonny was. I was moaning at Jonny. I'm like, hurry up and hit record. Hurry up and hit record. He's like, well, it's loading. It's loading. I said, well, get a better Mac. He's like, I've got the most expensive one. Anyway, hello and welcome to episode 9 of Movies in a Podshell. I'm laughing because of my little prelude. The podcast which takes one great film and couples it with a classic movie from another era. This week's pick, the Snyder Cut Spoilercast. I'm Jamie, and I'm joined, as usual, by my whole co-host, the Easter Bunny, but you can call him Jonny. Hello, Jonny.
Hey, Jamie. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm full of beans, as you can see.
Yeah, you are. You're very much full of energy.
I've literally just sat and watched you eat a whole... Was it a whole Easter egg you just ate?
It was, to be fair.
Yeah, I just sat and watched them eat a whole Easter egg, so... But it's fine because for those who don't know about Jonny's physical appearance, he's a slim lad, and he can eat as many chocolate buttons as he wants. So yeah, that's our reference for the week. Anyway, Jonny, how have you been? I feel like it's been weeks since we've recorded.
I've been good. Been busy with work and stuff, but I have actually watched a fair few films, which is nice for a change for me to, rather than just Hunger Games. But I did watch Hunger Games. How about you?
No, we've had some comments actually, like that come in about saying, does Jonny just only watch like,
the same series over and over again?
YA films, yeah.
Did we get any comments complaining about the fact you said Maze Runner was a better film series though? Because that was ridiculous.
No one said a thing. No one said a thing. Like of all of the thousands of listeners that we have, no one said nothing. I'm good. I've also been working loads, as you know, but we should have a little more quiet period now, which is going to be lovely. So yeah, what have we been watching, Jonny?
I went on an absolute Joel Schumacher binge, which was actually because originally this episode was going to be an episode about The Lost Boys, which I know we'd already announced on Instagram, but we've swapped things around, and I watched, as well as The Lost Boys, which was the podcast, which I won't go into because we'll talk about that next episode. I watched Flatliners, which I really, really, really enjoyed. Very 80s.
You loved it, didn't you?
I'm not big into 80s films in general. Jamie knows that because you try and pick for me ones that I will like and impart them on me. But I really enjoyed Flatliners. It's one of those films that I watched initially, thought was pretty good, and then I was thinking about it days later, and it grew on me. Which I love films like that I keep thinking about. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's a super interesting concept. I've not seen it actually in years. Probably. I don't think I've seen it since I was maybe like late 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my mum liked it, like loved the film, and I remember watching it was on terrestrial at some point. And yeah, but it's quite a tense film, isn't it? Like in the style. Schumacher's got a specific, like quite a cool style, isn't he?
From watching that, I can see why they hired him to make Batman. I know what the Batman films became, but you can see why he was hired to make the Batman movies, because he had such a style. It's all very neon reds, neon blues, very moody and atmospheric. I really like that style, and I think what I liked in Flatliners as well is their themes and topics they're thinking about are quite grim and things you don't really want to think about, like the afterlife, what happens to the body and stuff. And Kiefer Sutherland's really good in it as well, like really genuinely good performance. And I don't know,
I like Kiefer Sutherland. I think he's good in most things.
I do, but I love 24, but he's very much doing a thing over and over and over again. Realistically, was when you watch something like Flatliners, it was interesting to watch him. Well, when he was younger, I haven't seen a lot from when he was younger, really. And it's got Julia Roberts in as well. There's a big cast there. You got Kevin Bacon.
I
as
love
well.
Julia Roberts.
But apparently, Schumacher said a lot of these people got big after this. It's one of those films where you look back and say, "Wow, how did they get that cast together?" And it's kind of well, actually, it was after that. But no, I really, really enjoyed Flatliners, and then I ended up watching both the Joel Schumacher Batman films. Me and Jamie on the previous pod talked a bit. We had a question related to who our favourite Batman was, I think. And then
that was it, yeah.
It sparked me on a wave of... Jamie said, we should rewatch Batman Forever at some point, yada yada. And I did. I enjoyed it, but not as... This is topical because we're talking about the Snyder Cut today. There's a whole documentary I watched about what the original version of that film was, and then they basically wanted to make it as kiddie friendly as possible, so they changed it. So forget about release the Snyder Cut, it's release the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever, which genuinely does exist. All this and most of the scenes are on a DVD as deleted scenes, so there are like fan cuts of it.
Yeah.
But it was darker and it had more of a story, and I liked Val Kilmer, etc.
Yeah, so, I actually really like Batman Forever, and I think it gets bashed quite a bit. But actually, that brings us on to a question from Pete, who writes into moviesinanutshell@gmail.com, just like you can. And he asks, boys, love the show.
Wrong email. Moviesinapodshell, not nutshell.
This is my brand. Sorry, everyone. Do you know what? We'll keep it in. Who cares? Sorry, he didn't write into Movies in a Nutshell because that email doesn't exist. That's my Instagram account. Sorry, always trying to push myself. He writes into Movies in a Podshell @gmail.com, and he says, boys, love the show. Who's your favourite Batman? Who is your what's your favourite Batman film, he says. And why is it Batman Returns? And so I must say, Pete, I agree with you. My favourite Batman film is Batman Returns. Why is it my favourite? I think probably because of the age I saw it at. I saw it probably not like long after release when I was probably way too young to see it, but it was I love it. I just love the moodiness of it, and it felt quite dark, and of course Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman is amazing. I won't say why.
I find it
Johnny,
crazy that you like that film so much when you don't like Tim Burton films. It just completely blows my mind because it's the most Tim Burton film, far more so than Batman was.
Yes.
It just staggers me.
Because him and Batman in that world, they fit together like Lego. It's like he suits doing that style. Like, as in, I like Edward Scissorhands. It's pretty good, but then you see Batman as well, and you realise like he's a bit of a one-trick pony for me.
I find this really hard, and again, this is probably horrendously controversial, but for me, it probably is Batman versus Superman, which is probably one of the things that's going to maybe get hate. But I'll tell you why. I think the best film is The Dark Knight, without question, as in the best film. Yeah. But it doesn't solely focus on Batman. I really, really like Batman Begins. I think that's an underrated film and is probably actually might be the best Batman film. Because
my favourite of that trilogy, definitely Batman Begins, because it's more true to the comic.
It felt like Batman Year One, which is essentially what I wanted all along. And for people who care, Joel Schumacher actually originally wanted to do Batman Year One. So I think a lot of the hate and flack he gets for the direction is harsh because he was a fan of the comics. He did want to do something else, but the studio did say, this is what we want. Anyway, basically we want the polar opposite of Tim Burton's Batman Returns, which is Jamie's favourite. But I have been on this podcast and been a big advocate of Batfleck before. And I honestly, there's a fight in Batman v Superman where he's just caning these people in the warehouse.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best representation of Batman. I've never seen it done better. And when he's in the shadows before... There's
in the corner of the room.
Corner.
Yes. Yeah.
I just think, honestly, Zack Snyder, again, that is the best version of Batman I've seen. So I know he hasn't got a whole film, and I know there's issues because a lot of people hate it because Batman's in the wrong throughout the film, but the whole point of the film is he then learns from the lesson. But I think a lot of people were so aggravated by the initial, why is he, they just couldn't really deal with it. So
I mean, so it's funny. It is funny you mention that, right? Because most people would say, or most Batman fans I know would say that actually, like, that's really bad representation of Batman, like Batfleck in that warehouse, because he's essentially killing people, and we all know Batman doesn't kill. He never ever kills. And I'm just playing devil's advocate.
The comics from 1939 for like the first 20 odd issues, he literally murders people week in, week out.
But I hope you're right about that, because the listeners will check it.
Okay, here we go. I am literally reading a book now about Batman fandom, and it's about when did the mantra come in, at what point did Batman not become a killer, etc., and all these things. The truth is the Batman lore has changed so many times over the years. The only thing that's stayed the same is the origin and the promise. And before it was quite a flimsy story, and then in the 70s it said, no, this is his mantra, and he's actually a guy who's completely obsessed and he has to be Batman, etc.
Yeah.
So with the representation about people dying and stuff, okay, I get that, but I kind of like the fact, as Zack Snyder says, if this was in the real world, people would die, and people might not like that take, but I quite like that take, and it's a pick. But I'm looking up at Batman Damned, which is a graphic novel we've both read.
I've
Yes.
got it.
Yeah.
Oh, have you know the version I've got though, don't you?
I've got the censored version before we go any further.
Right, so I've got the not censored version. Just so you know, viewers, the version I've got is actually worth quite a pretty penny now, I think. So the version.
Why is that, Jamie?
It was it's part of the black. Is it Black Label?
I think they call it.
Yeah, something like
DC,
that. So,
DC Black Label.
yeah, so it's DC Black Label. So basically, that's like aimed at adults.
Edgy.
And essentially, like, so I was like mad into comics at this point, and then everyone's gonna be raging with me later when I say that how burnt out I am on superheroes in general. But so I've got this. Yeah, I've got this Batman Damned comic, and it's literally got the bat penis in it.
Yeah.
So it's literally got a few panels, like 3 or 4 panels of Batman's penis.
I'm not quite sure why, though. It's a very odd choice. I know why people don't like Zack Snyder's version of superheroes. I know why they don't like Zack Snyder's version of Batman and Superman. But I like a darker Batman. And personally, as we've just said, if the collateral damage and all that stuff, it kind of makes me feel it's closer to things like The Dark Knight Returns and Batman Damned, as we've just mentioned. And a lot of the modern novels are quite grim and gritty, and I think Batman has killed in other ones as well. It just doesn't faze. I don't know. It just doesn't faze me. I just see it as a different interpretation.
He's a nasty boy, isn't he? He's a nasty boy, our Batman, just trying as a vigilante. Anyway, yes, cool. So I guess you want to know what I've been watching.
Yes, I do. Sorry. Yeah, really bad.
You hadn't asked.
Jamie, what have you been watching?
Thank you. Right. So I've actually watched quite a few, so we're going to have to gloss over some of them. Right, so I started off by watching Total Recall. Paul Verhoeven. I don't know how you say it.
Paul Verhoeven.
Anyway, yeah. We all know that it's well, if you haven't seen it, everyone, it's a fantastic action film. At the pinnacle of Arnie. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the main character. It's essentially about people live on Mars. He goes to he wants to go on holiday, but he basically do these things. They implant memories into your head, and you feel like you've been on holiday, and it's almost like a double twist scenario. Oh, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Do you remember it much?
I've not seen it. I just said I've not seen it. I've literally not seen it, no.
Oh my goodness, right, okay.
Is it better than RoboCop and what's the other one? Starship Troopers.
It's on
par
for me.
Both films I enjoy. Okay.
Starship Troopers,
that's Paul Verhoeven as well.
Is it? Okay. Mm-hmm. It's very different. I don't think RoboCop's Paul Verhoeven.
I believe it is.
Well,
this is the Watchers pause as we go on IMDb mid-podcast. Very professional.
Terrible. So Total Recall, Jonny, is on Now TV at the moment. I think you'll really, really love it. It's so much fun, and it's really gory. Lots of really good physical effects. I'm almost certain Paul Verhoeven didn't direct.
He did Total Recall, RoboCop, Basic Instinct, Showgirls, Starship Troopers, Hollow Man, Black Book, and Ellie.
He did RoboCop. He directed RoboCop.
Yeah, I knew he did because they've all got that satirical edge, haven't they? So.
Well, I feel a little bit silly now in front of all of our viewers. Well, what do I know? Hey. Anyway, so I watched Total Recall. Fantastic. It's on Now TV, everyone, if you want to get it.
That's cool.
Jonny, you should go and watch it. The soundtrack's unbelievable. It's got that one of those like synth sort of 80s soundtracks. Even though it was made in 1990, it's still on the cusp of like what we're thinking. So Eastern Promises, have you heard of that before? It's got Viggo Mortensen. So it's directed by David Cronenberg, another favorite of mine. It's basically about a Russian teenager living in London, and she dies during childbirth, but leaves clues to like a midwife in a journal that could tie her to a rape involving like a violent Russian mob family. Oh, wow. Actually, what's his name? Viggo bases his character off of Vladimir Putin. He's a method actor, so he's watching loads of like Russian like media, all that kind of thing. Like, again, really good film. I then watched Escape from Pretoria, which is a 2020 film actually with Daniel Radcliffe, based on a true story.
Haven't seen it, but I've seen all the clips on Gogglebox last week, so thanks very much for that, Gogglebox. So.
Oh, really? I don't watch Gogglebox.
Yeah, unfortunately, it showed literally the ending of the film, which was slightly disappointing. I've
never understood the concept of watching people watch telly. It's weird. Anyway, Escape from Pretoria.
It looked good.
It's very good. South Africa. It's based in South Africa. True story about 2 white political activists that are they're from the African National Congress, imprisoned by the apartheid regime, and they put a plan. Apartheid. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I've never heard the word before, to be honest. So basically, what they do is he is some kind of like engineer, but he looks at the guard's keys and then fashions keys out of wood that actually work through the door. So in the end, they've got like 15 keys. Like,
you know, it was really bad though when he was going to turn the key. The first thing I thought was Alohomora.
You're gonna get in so much trouble, like, for mentioning Harry Potter again. Like, all you watch is Harry Potter, Twilight, and The Hunger Games.
I've never seen Twilight. I've seen the first one, but I've never seen the rest.
Yeah, is Harriet watching anything at the moment?
She's watching Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3. Oh, that's a good one. Has she got the tissues ready?
I hope so, because that film genuinely is quite depressing.
It is. Funny story about Toy Story 3, actually. When you and I lived together, back at uni, I watched Toy Story 3 in the house on my own on your brand new LG TV.
Which I still have, by the way, because I'm such a cheapskate, so we're 10 years down the line, I still
10 years down the line.
TV.
I mean, I remember looking at that TV thinking it was the absolute pinnacle, and now...
We thought it was massive, didn't we?
Yeah, it's like, what is it, 32 inch?
No, it's 42 inches, and we thought it was the biggest TV in the world, and it's really not. But anyway.
So, anyway, like, do you remember Rudie? Right? We used to have this Jack Russell called Rudie. Well, like I did. And he would... Sometimes if you'd see a dog on screen, he'd sprint up to the screen, jump up and slam his paws off the screen, right? And so this was fine when it was a CRT television, because the CRT television would hold up. And so it's towards the end of the film, and it's the bit where they're all holding hands, going down, and Slinky the dog's there. John's got his hand on his head. Don't worry, Johnny, it's fine.
I was going to say, the TV's still around, so it can't end too badly.
You don't know.
I can see where this is going, but carry on. I do remember Rudie used to get really aggy at other dogs on TV, but anyway.
Exactly. And so Rudie, like this brand new TV Johnny's got, I don't know where Johnny was, probably at uni somewhere. Like, and so Rudie saw this dog on TV, sprinted up to the TV, and I was sitting on the couch, and I was screaming like, "No!" And so he got that scared that he like got right up to the TV and then like cowered and like just started walking away from the TV, and I was sweating because I was like, "This is game over." Well, poor Rudie, poor me, having to replace your TV probably. So yeah.
Oh dear, that's really good. I can't believe in 10 years you've never told me that story. Well, maybe you were worried about it coming out.
So I decided to do it on a podcast to everyone. I don't know why I didn't tell you. Yeah, I watched Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Very, very funny.
I have seen that.
Yeah, it's a comedy with
and Russell Brand's in it as well.
But yeah, very funny.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's a comedy. Yeah, check it out if anyone's not seen it. It's fantastic.
What did you watch that on? Is that on Prime or something?
That is on Amazon Prime, I believe.
Cool.
Yeah, it is on Amazon Prime. And then I proceeded to watch a film called Joyride, which is also called Roadkill in America. So I think it's called Joyride in America. It's called Roadkill here. It's got, it's a pure random one. It's got, what's his name? Paul Walker. So it's got Paul Walker in it. And it's essentially like this road trip movie that turns bad. And they're tormenting this driver, this lorry driver. And they like... he's sort of saying they're acting like a woman, like, and they're seducing him, and he's like candy cane, and he starts like chasing them, and he's gonna kill them. It's fine. Like, it's fine. It's nowhere near as good as
it's fine. It sounds like Jeepers Creepers in my head for some reason, but anyway, that's fine. I'm just imagining the truck following them.
It was nowhere near as good as I remembered. I've not seen Jeepers Creepers, which is weird because
that's a horror film I've actually seen. It's probably because it's not a very scary one. I don't remember.
It's not very scary, no?
I can't remember.
On to the main body of the show. This week's film, as you all know, this is the Snyder Cut Spoilercast.
I need to bring us together. There are enemies coming from far away.
They serve an old power.
I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells. He's never fought us united.
So we're going to talk about the Snyder Cut that's just been released. I'd say just been released, not this Thursday gone, the Thursday before. Mm-hmm. We're talking about it. Johnny, what's the story behind the Snyder Cut? Do you know anything about it? I hope you do.
Zack Snyder had filmed pretty much the entirety of Justice League, and there was a family tragedy. His daughter passed away, and essentially he took time out, and they said, we're going to bring in Joss Whedon to finish up the film, but the tone will remain the same. It's just to kind of finish up. And actually what happened was Joss Whedon ended up getting, I can't remember if it was 100 million, but it's some crazy amount of money.
It was 100 million, yeah.
There you go. 100 million to reshoot large parts of the film and change the tone to be more in keeping with Marvel films. Now, I think a bit of a history that's also relevant here is DC was so desperate to get to the Avengers came out in 2012, and DC was so desperate to have their version of the Avengers out there. So there was a rush to get to Justice League. We had the first film, which was Man of Steel by Zack Snyder, which is about Superman. We had the second film, which was Batman v Superman, which was also Zack Snyder. The reception to Batman versus Superman wasn't good. It made a lot of money still, but the critical reception wasn't good. So they wanted to shift the tone, become lighter, and be more in keeping with Marvel. So they brought in a Marvel director in Joss Whedon, and he literally butchered the film. And the only reason I say butchered is because if having watched the Snyder Cut and watched the original cut, it is crazy. All the worst parts of that film that was released in 2017 were the new additions. And I don't think anybody would argue otherwise, to be honest.
Yeah, so the interesting fact, there isn't one scene in Snyder's version that was shot by Joss Whedon.
I would have thought that would be the case because just... Yeah, this thing that's frustrating is if I will never know what the experience of watching Justice League is without knowing what the Whedon cut is. In an ideal world, I'd never have known what that is. I would have never known the plot beats, and you could watch this and enjoy it for what it is and go from there. But instead, we've got this thing where it's kind of like deja vu. You know the outlines, and you know the tracing on a sketch or something. You know, you kind of know the general outline, but it's how it's filled in is different. I mean, this is literally a 4-hour version of a film we've seen that was 2 hours long. It was different enough to make it feel new. And I said to Jamie, and we're laughing because I've already done a David Fincher reference, but this was the most excited I've been about seeing a director's cut or a film like that since it was announced that they were doing an assembly cut of Alien 3, because at that for years, literally 11, 12 years, there was no way of seeing it unless you had a bootleg VHS, and they said they were going to make it on this DVD. And I was beside myself to see all this stuff, like half an hour's worth of footage I'd never seen that Fincher had shot and wanted in the film. So to then someone say, by the way, there's a 4-hour version of Justice League, and it is too long. I think there is probably a version of the film at 3 hours or 3:20, which is far better. But to be able to see it in its entirety and let it bask in it and indulge in it, I think is great, to be honest.
And so that's really interesting about the whole director's cut thing, because we actually have a question from Patch, and he writes in and he says, should all movies be the director's cut, or like in quotations, a director's cut, or does that leave too much room for directors to become self-indulgent? Do studio/theatrical restrictions give much needed focus to a project?
Brilliant question.
It is.
Off the bat,
really,
just to say, but I think there's a few elements to that which you've raised. I think the main reason the Snyder Cut's 4 hours long is because it's been released on a streaming platform, so no one cares about if it's 2 or 4. Like, people moaning about it being 4 hours. You're watching it at home anyway, so in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. I get the fact it's a large chunk of people's day, but I think all the people who were going to watch Justice League anyway were invested enough to spend the 4 hours, so it's
and
kind
it's a choice. It is a choice, by the way. Yeah. Like it's a choice whether you watch it or not. Like no one's forcing you to watch it, but you must also think, like, I guess the reason why it was allowed to be 4 hours, it wouldn't have worked in cinema because they've got to get a certain amount of showings in anyway. Like, so if they're only getting like 3 showings in of like on each screen, it loses money in that sense. Like,
there's a reason the theaters love a 2 hour movie or like a 2 hour 20 movie. It's because the amount of shows you can fit in every day. And then as soon as you remove that restriction, then I think for people like David Fincher who did Mank recently, that was a long film. And I thought, again, with that, maybe that was because of the fact they're not worrying about theatrical distribution, so they don't have to worry about how long people will sit down for to take it in, or how many screenings they can get in of it within a day.
Yeah, and this could be the first time where actually like streaming does benefit the viewer.
Also, The Irishman as well, sorry, I was going to say, was another example. That was fairly long, wasn't it? And that was Netflix.
3.5 hours.
Yeah, so, you know... maybe
amazing.
this is a new trend. That's
I'd rather it wasn't a new trend, because I like a 90 minutes is the perfect time for a movie, in my opinion. So let's answer the question, I guess. I guess it is a weird one for me. I think it's the director should always have full creative control over what they're trying to achieve. In terms, it could be too self-indulgent, but why are you attaching the director to the film in the first place?
I think a lot of it boils down to, and I think it was Fincher who said this, so I need to stop doing Fincher quotes, but it was essentially, you don't have to have final cut, but you have to have the studio on board with what your vision is, because if you make something a certain style and then they want something completely different, which is exactly what happened with Justice League, which is, oh, we're going to carry it on in the style of Batman v Superman, and then they say, oh, we want it to be like Avengers and it needs to be light-hearted and changed, and then it doesn't work, and then someone else comes in and dials up the saturation. It looked all wrong, didn't it? It just didn't work. And I think the most important thing is probably a studio backs your vision, because if they say it's got to be a certain runtime to make more money, I don't think you can argue too much on that. I think that's kind of accepted because you want it to be successful. Yeah. But it's making sure they're at least in line with the tone and the vision of what you're trying to say. I think that's the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think if a director's trying to, like, this particular scene's really important, that's their choice. Like they should be allowed to do whatever they want, like in terms of the presentation and the story and stuff. I think, unless they're gonna sort of I don't know, do something really, really controversial.
There are examples. I was going to say, sorry. There are examples though of some director's cuts which are actually worse than the theatrical.
Oh yeah,
and
like
there's some that are better. I mean, okay, not worse maybe, but for example, the Aliens special edition, which is done by James Cameron, is an extra 20, maybe 25 minutes worth of footage, and it does a lot of character building stuff, which is good. But for me, it ruins a lot of the pacing of the film, because again, the theatrical release is about 2 hours, and when at the start of the film you don't know what's happened on LV426, so something's gone wrong, but we don't know what's happened. In the special edition, you see all of what happened and how it went wrong, and the acting's not great in it, and I can kind of see why a studio exec went, you don't need that, cut it, there's more of a mystery if it's not there. So whenever I watch it, I kind of don't like the fact, do you know what I mean? It's little story beats like that. I wouldn't say it makes it worse, but it's just, for me, it's a pacing thing. And again, with Terminator 2, it's a really well-paced film, but there's a few plot holes without the director's cut. We were talking about the chip and learning and...
Oh yeah, God, yeah. The Terminator 2 director's cut's I much prefer it to the theatrical cut. There was I'm not sure, I can't remember who wrote the question in actually, but they did actually ask which like films have actually been improved by director's cut versions, and the first thing I said was Terminator 2.
Yeah, I to be fair, I did say Aliens, because it's a bit of a weird one. There's so many scenes in that which are far better from the extension, but there's other bits I just wish there was more mystery, and I don't like the fact you see what's happened to the colonists at the start. But again, that's a real nitpick. A film that a director's cut's made it better. The original cut of Blade Runner with the voiceover is not good, and a lot of the point of that voiceover was because I think the studio didn't really know, it wasn't clear what the story was in the film, so to have the voiceover as a way of clearing it up, etc. Was, if you watch the final cut, there's been many cuts of Blade Runner, but the final cut, which was released in 2007, that film for me is the definitive version, and that's the one Ridley's signed off on. So
yeah, I mean, there's I'm sure there's many more examples of. You mentioned Kingdom of Heaven, which
again another Ridley Scott film as well. He did I can't remember how short the studio release one. I think the theatrical release, so I think it was either 2 or 2:20, but the other one's way over 3 hours. But people just say it's literally, the films are completely different beasts. You've gone from, a 3-star film to a 4.5, 5-star. Some people are even saying, because of how much is lost in terms of context and depth. Just
like Justice League. But this is a little bit different. And do you know, Warner Brother actually, did you know they've actually done this on another occasion, released a director's cut of a superhero film on another occasion way in the past?
No, go on.
Right. So Superman 2.
Oh, God, they did the Donner cut of...
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Have you seen the Donner cut, though?
I haven't seen that. Do you know what? I might have, but I just can't remember. I've those original Superman films. Say original.
Dodgy CG over it, so
Really?
you'd remember it.
We can talk about dodgy CG later. In my opinion,
harsh,
anyway. Right. So let's start off by saying the differences between this and the original Justice League is, it's an additional 2 hours. There's a way hotter director, as in like Zack Snyder. Aesthetically, he's a hot guy, isn't he? I was gonna say, I've wrote down here, is he the fittest director? Is he the hottest director? Like, as in terms of how it, like, do you know what I mean? Sexy.
Well, Zack Snyder.
Yeah, have you seen him?
He's I know he's into his fitness and stuff.
Yeah, he's
because when
fit,
they were like
like
doing the 300 stuff, that he was still training alongside them.
Yeah, he's good looking, man. Like, he's a fit guy. Like, so
I just love the fact he's so passionate about the comics. I think a lot of stuff gets thrown at him about how, it's not what it's not what I want from the comics. I think he's a real fan of them. I think he gets so much flack for stuff he doesn't. Anyway.
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, so I just thought I'd preface that with like just discussing how hot Zack Snyder is, because I think he is the hottest director. Like, in terms
we haven't really given a synopsis of this film. Should I give a little synopsis of it? I think most people have already seen Justice League and we're going to listen to this. But
just so you know, guys, before Jonny says, it's the same synopsis as every other superhero film. Go on.
At the end of Batman vs Superman, a Superman does die because he sacrifices himself to save humanity. And as he dies, he lets out a scream. When he dies, Darkseid, he's a character from another dimension who we've seen fleeting images of, now knows that Earth is no longer protected. So he's going to wage a war because millions of years ago, he attempted to take Earth and he was injured and wasn't able to. So he sends...
Oh, yes. It's Hammerhead.
That dude. He sends his minion, Steppenwolf,
disciple,
to take care of it. Now, Steppenwolf's got a chip on his shoulder because he has previously done wrong on Darkseid, and Darkseid, some of his family were a traitor or something, so he's trying to make up for it. So he's essentially finding three MacGuffins, as in Avengers, you had the Infinity Stones that were collected over a series of films. In Justice League, it's a series of boxes. One box is with the Amazonians, another mother box which was with the humans, and there was another mother box which was with the Atlanteans, which is where Aquaman was from. So that's kind of how you get the gist of how the team come together. And essentially it's about Batman realizing his errors from the previous film, and he thinks, we actually need Superman to be alive, and I need to put a team together to deal with these extraterrestrial threats which are now coming. And we basically watched that for 4 hours. It sounds like a really bad thing to do for 4 hours, but honestly, the pacing's so good for the first 3 hours. I wasn't even bothered by it in the slightest.
I really must say, so when you were talking about the battle and stuff before ages ago, it's so Lord of the Rings-esque in that
so
sense. It
much.
really, really reminded me of
epic.
An ancient battle, the woman's voiceover in
Gal Gadot. It's quite a long voiceover section for her. I kind of wanted Jeremy Irons to be doing that because he's just got such a great voice. But anyway,
it's just amazing in every single aspect. It does. It flies by. It absolutely flies by. What a really important thing to know. It's not 16:9, is it?
No, so the aspect ratio for the previous two the Snyder films has been 2:3:5 aspect ratio. So on your TV, you'd say it's got black bars at the top and bottom.
2:3:5. Yeah, I was saying.
Yeah, no, it's fine. On a 16:9 screen, 2:3:5. And then when they essentially film these films, they do shoot it in 16:9, and they usually crop in afterwards. So in the edit, they can reframe or move things around. And because of that, Zack Snyder, when he was making Batman v Superman, got the chance to do an IMAX release, and he kind of reframed the image for IMAX, which can be either 4:3 or 16:9-ish. And essentially, he got so obsessed with the format that when he was told he was able to have the extra $70 million he got to make the Snyder Cut to finish his version of the film, he decided, you know what, I'm going to release it in IMAX. Now, he's done it in a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is essentially a square. I honestly believe he kind of did this as a troll, because I cannot believe if this came out in 2017 originally, it would have ever been in 4:3 aspect ratio. But I also kind of love the fact that he kind of knows this is his one chance to do this stuff, so he throws everything at it. His argument is, that a lot of the action in superhero films is up and down rather than left and right. So if you've got a really wide aspect ratio, like 2:3:5, it's people traveling across the screen, which kind of makes sense for Flash. But anyway, for characters like Superman, there's a lot of up and down with flying. It kind of made more sense to have the extra height. Now,
extra headroom.
The extra headroom, sorry. But Jamie was laughing at me because we've talked previously about me watching things on the projector. Now, the room I have the projector in, it projects onto a square screen, but the image it projects out the projector is 16:9. So to get the square to image of 4:3 Snyder Cut to fill the square screen, I needed a room with like an extra 2 meters back. So I put it all in my living room, and it literally took me, I think I'd message you saying it took me 25 minutes to literally rearrange my living room to set it up so I could watch Snyder Cut in his intended aspect ratio on the full screen. Was completely worth it, but it was a lot of faff.
Yeah, I mean, you do forget. Like my friend actually texted me saying, "What's wrong with this?" And he sent me a photo of his television screen, and it was like, yeah, obviously 4:3. I was like, "There's nothing wrong with it. That's the way it was intended." And he was like, "Right, okay."
The only thing issue I take with this, it was intended, is when you look at the behind the scenes footage and stuff, and they're looking at the aspect ratios on the preview screens, they are not looking at it in 4:3. It is very much something that looks cool, decided to do afterwards. But do you know what? I don't care. I'm fully behind it. I honestly didn't notice it after about the first 10 minutes. Exactly. I was like, oh, it's square, that's weird. And then a bit like when we watched some of the older films we've watched, I think I watched on the waterfront in 4:3. And, after about 5 minutes, I just kind of go, oh, right, fine. It washes over you. Same with when we watched M.
Yeah, exactly. Like all the old, I watch quite a lot of old films, so that, and they're all obviously 4:3. But yeah, you do forget about it in literally a minute. And so the one thing I will mention that did like annoy me a little bit. So in the UK and in America as well, I guess, I think it's the same for America. The only way we've got access to this is from Now TV in the UK. And there is no, I'm sorry to get onto this. Are you like moaning because
No, I know what you're going to say. I know, go ahead, but I'm huffing because we've got to wait another 3 months till the Blu-ray can come out, which is the way I just want to watch it anyway, but whatever.
Well, yeah, so my problem is it's on Now TV only, so we've got one way of watching it, right? And so the standard way is you have a Now TV subscription. Oh, guess what? It's not in full HD, so you've got to pay an extra £3 on top of that to get the boost package to get it in 1080p. But guess what? I don't want it in 1080p. I want it in 4K. Yeah. And I can't have it in 4K, and it so upsets me. I don't. In America, I'm pretty sure HBO Max is in 4K. They can get it in 4K.
I think that obviously there's been some deal signed somewhere, but I was annoyed because the best streaming service for me for film rentals for picture quality I've always found is actually Apple Rentals. Well, I don't know what they call it, but anyway.
Apple
Movies.
Rentals.
Sorry, that's
Apple
probably it. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, honestly, their streams are really genuinely. I don't know if they do genuinely have a higher bit rate, but they've just sorted their codec out, so it always looks good. So I was really annoyed when I found out it was going to be on Now TV because I don't rate it. I always think the sound quality really suffers because they put the bitrate into the image, not into the audio. But anyway, look, I know we're going off on one when we're moaning about physical media versus
Now
digital.
TV is the worst streaming service available to us.
It did have a massive rebrand, didn't it, just before Justice League? I don't know.
It's got a new picture. Yeah, they've got a new logo. Cool. New look. Thanks for the new logo.
It looks like Netflix now.
Thanks for the new logo. Where's my 4K image? That is all. Anyway, right. So it's split up into 6 parts. I noticed straight away the score. It's so epic.
So much better because it's actually Junkie XL, Tom Holkenberg, who did the soundtrack for... he worked on the soundtrack for Batman v Superman with Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer basically gradually removed himself from it. So it was so frustrating watching the Joss Whedon version when Danny Elfman did a score and Batman's theme was in it and Superman's. And as much as I love those themes, it was so out of context when you watch 2 films of this dark version with this aggressive score, and then all of a sudden there's this big orchestral version. It just didn't work. And
so I think it's quite important to note because the people that are listening to this are probably going to be comic book fans or superhero genre movie fans. Like, what would you say the main difference is between the Marvel universe and the the DC universe. What is the contrasting difference? Because they're very different, aren't they?
For me, I like DC because I feel the characters have more flaws. And I think that's the point. And I don't think it's just dark because it's a desaturated image or bleach bypass. It looks like it's had the bleach bypass process done to it. But genuinely, they deal with moral issues and conundrums.
Yeah.
That's why I like them. I don't feel like Marvel really does. But I always find it hard to criticize Marvel, and then people say you hate Marvel. And I don't. I love Marvel films. I've enjoyed them, but I've kind of done with them. And what I liked about DC was I felt they were doing something different. And when I got frustrated with DC was when they tried to make a Marvel world. It all had to be within one world straight away. You know, we had that universe phase. We had, what was that series of films Russell Crowe was supposed to launch? The Dark Universe with Tom Cruise as the Mummy or something. And, you know...
Oh really? That sounds terrible.
Have you never seen The Mummy with Tom Cruise in it?
Yeah. So the Mummy's.
Yeah. So that was supposed to be the start of the Dark Universe, and the Dark Universe was all the Universal monsters, and then.
Oh, was this? Yeah, right.
So
okay.
we had this era of just everyone going, "It's got to be in one world," and I just thought, why don't you just do good one-off stories, and if it goes well, then you can do another one, and then see and.
Yeah.
Marvel films, I don't think. They're just lighter for me.
I've always preferred DC to Marvel anyway. Like always.
And you've always read them. Like when we lived together, all the graphic novels you had were essentially DC, and the ones you went to buy were DC.
Yeah, and it's funny because the Marvel ones I do have are the Jessica Jones ones that are like the darker ones,
and they're the more mature audience ones, aren't they? Those Marvel
Marvel Max, it's called.
It,
so
yeah.
like the Punisher and the Jessica Jones. And I'm not saying like I don't like the lighthearted stuff, because I do as well. It's definitely got. I've read so much Spider-Man and stuff as well. I just prefer the darkness and the fact that the characters are more flawed and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, DC's more serious. It appeals more to me. Have Marvel executed it better? Absolutely.
Yes, 100%.
Unbelievably
no question,
well.
Actually,
yeah,
no question at all.
No. Am I so fatigued with superhero as a genre? Absolutely. And I said this earlier.
I
right?
completely agree, to be honest.
And you mentioned actually something really. So I was actually having a little moan earlier. I said all the Snyder Cut's done for me is cemented and solidified how absolutely exhausted I am with superhero films. I did enjoy the Snyder Cut. I really, really did. But I think I'm done now. Like when we're back in cinemas, I probably won't be going to see them because I'm just so done. And then you mentioned, so I was moaning again, saying, "Oh, my problem is that like all younger people see nowadays is Marvel films and superhero films, and the dramas are just swept under the carpet nowadays." And you said it's very much like westerns, back in the day. And you know what? I will always stand corrected. And at that point, I was like, I stand corrected. You're right. Actually, westerns took over for decades,
a long time, and I think there will always be the next trend. Do you remember when there were loads of disaster movies in the 90s? We had
like
loads,
Twister and
Deep
Vertical
Impact,
Limit,
and we had Armageddon, Vertical Limit, all within a very short period. And again, they had a phase in the 70s. A lot of it's apparently in society and politics. It always ends up reflecting, like there was a load of Vietnam films, but they weren't always about Vietnam.
We live in a society. So the Snyder Cut, because it's like about 15 hours long, it's split into 6 parts, which is really important to note. So part 1, I guess, is all about Batman assembling the team.
Yep.
And at this point now, the color palette, it goes back to BVS. The color palette's dark, so much gray, so many blues. It's moody. It feels Dark Knight-esque in places for me, particularly the part where the men with guns and briefcases raid the building and Wonder Woman turns up.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Dark Knight, that is pure Dark Knight.
You mean the bank heist one, or the third film?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The bank heist one is very serious. It starts off that serious, like, it's R-rated. Like, we didn't mention that, but it's R-rated.
Do you know what I love about that scene is the fact that basically Wonder Woman, there's a team of about 5 people she's taking out or more, and in this Whedon version they kind of get punched and kick about and she's protecting people. In this version they get absolutely annihilated, like they're dying left, right, centre. Like when she punched them, they're slamming into a wall, there's no way they're surviving, and towards the end they've got this bomb she needs to get rid of, so she grabs the bomb, throws it up in the air, goes with it. There's this massive explosion. And to be fair, it's up in the sky, so no one's harmed. And you think, great, she's got no collateral damage. Then there's one guy left. And for absolutely no reason, she's like punched all the other ones and it like wasn't a problem. This guy, she puts her arms together, beams out this burst of energy, and it takes out like half the building. And it's the most Zack Snyder thing where it's like complete overkill. But I love it. I don't care.
Yeah,
I find it funny. I love the fact that he basically says that these people are gods. The idea of these superheroes are that they are gods. They're mythical beings. So we can't comprehend them or understand them. And I just I love the fact that it goes so OTT with it. I'm all for it.
And so you mentioned that they're gods, right? So I must say, in that scene, the Wonder Woman scene, I felt like the CGI was dodgy, really dodgy in that scene. Like when she's moving really fast and stuff, it just looks a bit cheap to me.
I'll be honest, you messaged me that straight after you watched it. I hadn't really clocked it, but I don't know. I think as well, because I know how much they've spent on this re-release and how much they had to do, I was kind of a bit of... There's a goodwill amount, I think. Because none of the CGI is bad, by the way. It's not like, oh my God, that's terrible. It's still... If you pause it, it's photo real. It's stuff with like the motion, I think, more so, which is probably a thing 100%. To do with time and etc.
Yeah. So you mentioned Greek gods throughout, right? And the Justice League has actually been compared to Greek gods in the past anyway. But we know that Snyder has like... He has been presenting this as like a Greek god style, like mythical... these mythical beings. And so I wanted to just take you through, like, in case you didn't know, each Justice League member is actually like sort of, there's a nod to a Greek god. So obviously the obvious ones we've got is Aquaman. He's obviously Poseidon, right? The Flash is Hermes. Hermes is Rapid back in the day, apparently. I say back in the day. Did he
delivering messages like he did to Bruce Wayne in Batman v Superman, saying, make sure you save Lois Lane. She's the key to everything.
Exactly. So Wonder Woman's the more strange one. So she's actually like, maybe not Greek mythology, but we think she could be compared to Roman mythology. Artemis. So Artemis was Greek mythology, but people think that she's more Roman mythology. Superman, really obvious, he's Zeus. Batman, so people think Batman could be compared to Hades, or like in his other name is Pluto, the Dark Prince, the Dark Brother of Zeus. So like it's actually like that makes a lot of sense.
So yin and yang to each other because they've got the different viewpoints of how to deal with issues. And... Absolutely,
and so the reason why like Hades actually lives underground and he uses his wealth for power. So it literally is. It literally is. So then you've got the last person, Cyborg. I'm like, right, how does he possibly fit into Greek mythology? But he does. So. He's actually, and please, if we've got anyone with some kind of masters in Greek mythology, I really apologize for butchering this name. You might know it actually, Jonny, because you've read the Stephen Fry books. Hephaestus?
I have no idea how you would say it, but go for it.
Cyborg is compared to Hephaestus. So basically, he was deformed through really unfortunate circumstances, but he's a master blacksmith and he can forge any weapon. So that is Cyborg. It very is Cyborg. So there you go. For people that like just see it, I guess, and I guess this is maybe why I'm a bit of an apologist for these particular DC films, because it's not just your paint by numbers Marvel.
And the thing is, like,
meanings.
When Snyder came into it, he said, I treat them as a modern myth. That's the idea. And like you've said, you've given the exact examples, but it's the idea of a lot of Batman v Superman. Zack Snyder said the third character, so you've got Batman, you've got Superman, and the third character was actually the media. And it was that the whole film was showing what would the world be like if Superman existed. And I kind of went, yeah, I can agree with this. Half people would think he's the second coming of Christ, quite literally. Half the people would think he's a false god, he's an alien. Half people would be saying he should go back to his own planet because unfortunately that's the society we live in. Other people would be saying he should be allowed to stay. It's using all this as there's a lot of political themes that you could read into.
You're so right.
It, and that's why Snyder does it. And then people say, oh, you're looking too far into it. It's actually just about Batman and Superman fighting. It's like, there's a middle ground. We probably read too much, and then there's probably a level of people don't think there's anything to it. And I think in the middle, there's probably the truth. But, you know, I think for me, compared to a Marvel film, and this isn't a slight, I enjoy Marvel, as we keep having to say, the Marvel films that do well for me are the ones that are smaller fry, not the big end of the world stuff. And again, part of the bits I didn't like about Justice League was the fact it was so epic and big. I sometimes like the smaller fry stuff, and actually in Batman v Superman, what I liked was watching Batman just do normal stuff. So
yeah, no, 100%.
Anyway, yeah, sorry,
you're 100% right, and yeah, that is the main reason why I also prefer this universe. Like, and again, I have enjoyed Marvel films in the past as well. So yeah, and I guess and so that actually like silos in really nicely with this next part. So part two, so Batman's like sort of like trying to get the Justice League together. Part two, you see a bit more of this Steppenwolf character, and actually, this is when it gets a little bit deeper. Like, he criticizes the human race, and this was really like, I love this part. And he says they're all divided. He basically described our human race right now.
Yeah,
they're all divided. They're at war with each other, and they don't deserve free will. They should be stripped of their free will. And I was like, man, that is
deep.
We do deserve to be stripped of our free will because we are trash. Like, we're always fighting with each other. It is deeper. It's true. It definitely is deeper, and it's true. And like those themes throughout. Yeah, fair enough. Like, people like say about Snyder that he's a bit emo and stuff. Like, yeah, he is, and I like it. I was emo. Like, I love emo.
I still like emo music, and I'm not ashamed.
Yeah, and so that part there where it's like, yeah, they don't deserve to live, and yeah, people will sort of talk about Thanos and that he's very similar and stuff like that, but actually this came out before Infinity War, and more importantly, also,
in the comics, a
year before. So in the 60s, I think it was the 60s, Darkseid was actually invented before Thanos. So he was introduced before Thanos.
Do you know what? In the whole history, though, of Marvel DC, there's so much where so-and-so was first, then this copy, which led to this. Like, it's...
Absolutely.
And also, like, Superman was the original superhero. That you can bash Superman as much as you want, but there would be no superhero whole genre and comic books if it wasn't for Superman. He was the first superhero. I'll be honest, I'm not actually massively bothered about Superman. In Batman v Superman, I was quite content with Batman going to kill Superman. It didn't bother me.
Yeah, but you understand everyone's motivation in that. Like, that's why. I recently just watched the Ultimate Cut.
I love the Ultimate Cut of that film. Yeah, again, it's long. That's about 3 hours 20 minutes.
It is. Yeah. I could see it from every single person's point of view. You understand from Bruce Wayne's point of view why Superman has to die, because he's an alien and he has the power to destroy everyone.
And he only knows him through the media. He doesn't know him as a person. He doesn't know what he stands for. He just saw Metropolis get blown to pieces in this fight. There's no context of anything else.
Turns out Superman's pretty sound, isn't he? Like, nice guy.
Exactly.
Nice guy. Like,
he's a nice bloke.
He likes us, right? But it's a good job he likes us, because if he didn't, it's over, and that's why Batman's after him. So, right, I must mention. So, part 2, we really delve into Cyborg's backstory, right?
Yes.
Joe Morton, Silas Stone, Cyborg's dad.
Can we talk about Terminator 2?
Yes, you have.
Soon as I saw Miles Dyson messing around with technology, I went, no, just leave it. It always goes wrong. I still think of him. You know when the SWAT team comes in at Terminator. And I was just waiting for it. So we're going to get into it later, but in both films, he sacrifices himself at a vital point, and I thought, if he does the breathing thing, I will lose my mind. Please do the Miles Dyson.
Oh man. Yeah, it's do you know what? You've ruined the viewers quiz time, because that was the viewers quiz time. But do you know what? This week, our dear listeners, Johnny's on it. So so Joe Morton, Cyborg's dad, he's obviously in another very similar role in Terminator 2, where
bit of fan service, I think, and I'm more than happy for it.
Oh, I love it. Actually love it. So this time, actually, like, Cyborg in this film, one of the main differences for Cyborg is, like, he's actually one of the main characters, and he's a really important character, and it adds so much depth, doesn't it?
So in a bit of history, when the original Justice League film came out, the actor who portrays Cyborg just completely called out Warner Brothers. He was essentially cast as the main hero, but he was the emotional heartbeat through the film of why it all comes together, and you're supposed to feel his story, and it was all gone. There was literally nothing left in that original version. It was staggering how much they removed.
it was really sad. It's really, really sad because it's actually like a really valuable piece of, like, isn't it? It's so valuable, his story.
I think we should talk about as well with Snyder. Some people complain that we've talked about the emo aspect, but how he doesn't deal well with emotional beats. But I think he nails. There's a scene where it's trying to set up the relationship with him and his father. So he's playing American football and he's the star player. He's the job. This is before he's a cyborg, by the way. Sorry. So it's a flashback, and he's the man. He's like the guy on the team scoring the touchdown. Sorry, guys, I don't watch NBA. I don't watch.
Oh my god!
NFL,
sorry, guys, I don't watch NBA, which is basketball.
Pretty self-explanatory. But he looks back at he's fuming at me. Sorry, apologies, Film Forager in advance. And just he looks over to the crowd, and his mum's there, and there's just an empty spot, and it was just really a real simple visual representation of just his dad's not there and that relationship. And then he's chatting with he's driving home from the game, and he's with his mum in a car, and they're talking about his relationship with his dad. And then as they're having this conversation, she gets struck by a car, and he has this horrendous car accident, which is she dies instantly. And his dad works with the alien tech that's from the first Man of Steel film, and finds a way to bring his son back as a cyborg. And using a mother box, that's quite essential to the story, using one of the mother boxes. And like, let's be honest, the cyborg thing is very out there, it's very sci-fi, but because the emotional connection it's really hard to not call it Miles Dyson, the emotional connection with his dad is the core of why this transformation took place, and a lot of the reason why he's learning to become a human again. After he's cyborg, he's not really, humans kind of scared of him, but he's not really full machine, and he doesn't know where he fits in with the world. And a lot of him assembling with the Justice League is about accepting his place and working out who he is.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I actually loved his part of the story. Was probably one of my favorite parts, and it's a lot of people's favorite parts, I think, from what I've been seeing online stuff. And a lot of people have been also saying, I'm so glad like Batfleck's more fleshed out and stuff as well.
Thank God for that. So every extra scene with him and Jeremy Irons, I was just so happy. I was just like, good, great, please, more. Please do the Flash film, please. I think he is now. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure I've read he is.
The Flash. So how do you feel about how do you like the Flash then? Because this is very polarizing. The Flash, Ezra Miller's the Flash is really polarizing.
Okay, so probably not a popular thing to say, but I've only read Flashpoint, so I haven't got a full understanding of Flash as a character. I've watched a few episodes of the Flash TV show because
Monster of the Week. Leave it. Just leave it. Same as Arrow. Monster.
PB used to love that, but anyway, so I've seen some of that.
Friend of the show, PB.
That's it. However, I don't have enough of a take to know what a good version or bad version is. I like Ezra Miller. I enjoyed his performance in Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I know we've raved about
He's
before.
the Superman, isn't he? I'm sorry, he's the Spider-Man. He's the Spider-Man of the DC universe.
And I found him far less annoying in this version than the Whedon version.
Me too.
But the thing I still don't like is in key scenes, he's a guy who runs fast and he trips up at least 2 or 3 times in this film, and that still knocks me. It's a bit annoying. So sorry, what about you? Are you up for that interpretation? Did you read a lot of Flash then? I don't really know where you stand with Flash.
So I know quite a lot about Flash. So
okay,
I've not read a great deal. I have read Flashpoint, and I've read a few runs of the new what's it called?
New 52 or
no. That was so the New 52. So the New 52 is actually horrendous. Like so. People look back on the New 52 now and actually slate it, apart from sort of the Batman stuff with Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo.
The Night of the Owls and
absolutely amazing.
Yes, I
Court
love
of the Owls. Amazing.
Yeah.
Really, really good. So a lot of people don't really like a lot of the New 52. So the new stuff is called Rebirth, DC Rebirth.
Oh yes, and they did like a younger Superman or something.
Yeah. So they've done. So any viewers that are interested, definitely. In fact, I was talking to Quinn about it. So Quinn writes into the show a little bit and listens, I think. And I was speaking to him about it. Like definitely, there's the Superman run is really, really good. The new Batman run from Tom King's really good.
I've got that. Yeah.
Super Sons as well is great, like with Superman and Batman's kids, like really fun. This and also Red Hood and the Outlaws. This and Nightwing. All of those are really great.
Nightwing. Anyway, that's a whole other show.
Yeah, I know you do. I'd love to see. Yeah, So yeah, I have read quite a bit of Flash. It's good. Like it's really good.
So is he in your head what you see of the character though, or is he just a completely different thing? Is it a Snyder version?
There's about 4 different Flashes. So there's Barry Allen. Yeah, and then there's like, and I'm going to be honest, it's been as I said, I'm burnt out. It's been a while since I've read any superhero thing in general. So I can't remember the others off the top of my head, but yeah, there's been many Flashes, and yes, Barry Allen is the one that's like a little bit like Spider-Man, who is, what's his name? Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Pure blanking. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I guess so. Like, I guess Ezra Miller's just a bit. The thing with the hot dog and stuff was really funny.
I liked that. And
really
I thought that was nice.
Yeah.
That was nice humor. It wasn't big gag.
It's not forced.
Brunch.
No, it's not forced. Like it's fine. Like it's good. It's fun.
For context, for the people who haven't watched it, there was a horrendous scene of the Whedon cut where he starts discussing brunch, and it goes on for what feels like a lifetime, and I just hate it with a passion.
And it's bizarre, right? Because in Whedon in general, like I used to really like him. Like I used to really like him for like, because I love Buffy, and you love
Same,
Buffy.
agree,
as well.
yeah.
But also like some of the superhero films he's done ain't all that really, are they? He's very one note for me.
I'll be honest. I still think, in terms of one of the best superhero films, I thought the first Avengers, in terms of seeing everyone together on screen for the first time and the way it did it, I thought it was very, very well done, and I thought Whedon did do a good job. I'm not going to sit here and slate that. Did I think Age of Ultron was that great? Not really, but
Age of Ultron's like notoriously bad.
But I think Age of Ultron is better when you saw what came after it, because it had a lot of setting up to do. It's like Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2 got slated, but then when you saw what came after it, it was setting up Avengers, and it kind of got excused in post. And I think, again, Batman v Superman will be looked back upon far better in the context of Justice League. Because
it's aged so well.
People turn around and say, "Oh, Batman's wrong, and he's got this bad thing, and he's all, it's not the way I see him." And that was the point. The whole point, as you said, is the redemptive.
He's a man.
We've already said this. He's fallible. He was wrong, and then this whole film was about him redeeming that, and he learns to trust people. And the whole film is about him setting up as a team, and he's been going solo for all these years. 20 odd years we're supposed to believe, aren't we? By BVS, he's been going.
Absolutely, he says 20 years.
20 years, and nothing's changed.
Yeah, and so I guess now, like, sort of mid, we all know he gets the team together, right? He gets the team together. Yeah. The missing piece is Superman. And that, so I wrote down, right. So it shows this link between the Amazons and the Atlanteans, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't it? Do you know the bit I'm talking about where they're fighting and stuff?
You mean so it shows the flashback of when the mother, basically you can't have all the 3 mother boxes come together, and then it shows in the flashback how it was stopped. So there were Green Lanterns there was the Amazonians, and
which almost got cut.
Yeah,
and Green Lantern scene also got cut, which I was like, I couldn't believe that.
And who was the other one? Amazonians.
So it's Amazonians and Atlanteans, like the main
and
ones.
Humans.
Yeah,
and the Lanterns. Sorry, yeah.
I just really did see that, like the link between those is just like humans, are like they're like fighting each other, as in like almost like, again, different religions, like fighting against each other. Like it's really interesting. So at this point we've got like all the superheroes together apart from Superman, and they've got to get is it the boxes that bring Superman back?
Yes,
no, it's the box.
One box. It's one of them other boxes.
One box, yeah. So
doesn't restore matter, and I think
that's it.
They work out that it will revive Superman. It's sci-fi, guys. I can't lie. It's very sci-fi. And one thing to just say about that is, one of the things I really liked about BVS, despite the fact Superman's flying around, is on the whole it feels quite grounded. Now in Justice League, you're entering the sci-fi comics territory, so you kind of have to go with that. And yeah.
Yeah, and so, right, when they're resurrecting Superman, can someone have some consideration for poor Lois Lane? Because
that's true.
Can we just mention, like, because I wrote down 0 consideration for Lois Lane while resurrecting Superman. All it takes is for Batman just be like, Lois, just so you know, we need to bring your boyfriend back from the dead.
But hold on. Imagine they say, hold on, what we're going to do is we're going to dig up the body of Clark Kent.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna,
so wrong.
We're going to put him in the back of the car, Then we're going to take him to this alien ship. Then we're going to drop him in some water with a photo of his dad, which was also with him in the coffin. Very strange.
That. Yeah, I didn't
and
get
then, it was... I can't imagine a scene where that's okay. Do you know what I mean?
What? It's very much that someone once criticised fantasy films to me, and I fully could not defend it. They were like, "Oh yeah, but like in Lord of the Rings, when they're all dying and stuff, how do they get out of this? Flying eagles, massive flying birds. Just you can write it." And I was like, "Yeah, do you know what? I'm like, I get it. I get what you're saying. Like,
but
there's always there's always a way to get out of it.
Deus Ex Machina will always exist, right? It's not going anywhere."
Well, exactly. So yeah, can please someone have some consideration for poor Lois Lane? The answer's no. They can't. No, they can't. Like we've dug up your dead boyfriend, and he's coming back, whether you like it or not. And no, like you've got no say in the matter. Luckily, so they get Superman back. Superman starts kicking off, doesn't he?
What I love about when Superman comes back is he sees Batfleck's face, and he remembers basically the whole of the last film was just him being battered by Batman. So he's like,
me.
He just sets eyes on him, and it's brilliant. But what's great about that fight is it's watching all the different abilities take place. So you can see that actually Wonder Woman's pretty much on par with Superman in that fight.
I love that.
I love that. Yeah. And then I love the fact that you've got the Flash running around him, but because that Superman is so aware,
he's like,
his eyes turn and can see Ezra Miller running around him. That's brilliant. And then Cyborg, at this point we don't know if Cyborg's a goodie or a baddie, because he's kind of...
He's been on the fence the whole way through.
He's on the fence, and then suddenly he has a defense mechanism when he senses danger. So because Superman's not quite right yet, he gets these turrets out his back and he can't stop them. And they're like, "No, Cyborg, no." He's like, "Well, it's my defense mechanism." So yeah, it's just a really cool scene of seeing the superheroes. What I do want to say, and this is the thing, we've talked about how Marvel executed the Avengers, etc. better. My issue is with all of this is the reason this film is 4 hours. It does flesh out all the characters better, but it's crazy to think at this point we'd only seen Wonder Woman, Batman and Superman on screen before.
Crazy.
It's the first time we'd seen Flash.
Yeah.
It's the first time we'd seen Aquaman, aside from a brief thing. And Cyborg.
Oh, Aquaman came after, didn't it?
It did. Now, this is the problem. This film can't change the fact that that's the way things went, but that wasn't Zack Snyder's fault. Zack Snyder, I do believe, wanted to do another Man of Steel, or at least do a Batman film before, but it was pushed.
I love Man of Steel.
No, I do.
I love it.
No. But my point being is they rushed for this world build, and what upsets me is even with the 4-hour version of this film, you see them fleshed out, and I like the characters they've become, but it doesn't change the fact of it's still thin in one film, and it's that's the only thing, like that will never change. That's just a thing that happened in history, and we just kind of have to accept like this is what we got from it. But it's always frustrating to think of it was a missed opportunity. If you were going to do the world build, take your time, because Marvel earned it. That is true. Whatever you say, they earned that film.
Yeah, they did, because they dragged us through 15 films before.
No, let's say the first
kicking and screaming.
The first Avengers, though, that was earned. That's what I'm saying.
Was. And they had a film for every single.
And that's what I mean more so. I know what you're saying about 15, but I'm saying solely for Avengers, that film was earned. And the truth is, Justice League didn't feel earned because we hadn't got that far.
Premature. It was so premature.
Yeah. However, what they have been able to do with it within this version is far superior to what's come before it. And I am actually happy with what has happened, but it just still makes you think of what could have been if they just let it breathe. It's
remarkable how well they've pulled it off, considering the poor... Because if we think about it, right, if someone wants to watch Justice League, I would only say, you only really need to watch Man of Steel, and you only really need to watch Batman vs Superman. That's it. Like, you can get away with not watching Suicide Squad because it's trash. You can get away with... You could watch Wonder Woman if you're loving it. If you're loving it, go and watch Wonder Woman, because it's pretty good.
I
liked
Wonder Woman. I would actually fight for that, yeah.
Yeah. So... But I know what you're saying. Like, Marvel, it was earned, and it really was earned. It was executed expertly. Superman's kicking off, by the way. Kicking off. He's not happy. Yeah. He's gonna probably kill everyone if it's not for the person that I mentioned that you hadn't consulted before, Lois Lane. She just so happens to find out what's going on.
To be fair, no, she goes to Superman's shrine every single day. A big plot point is every day there's a policeman, she buys him coffee and he says, "Oh, you're here again, you've been coming every day for however long it's been."
I mean, I'd go, if he was my boyfriend,
you'd be going to his memorial every day. I'd be
going to his shrine every day. And
fair enough.
Henry Cavill in real life as well is a massive geek, and he's a YouTube video of him building a gaming PC, and it's amazing.
Really?
So go and check that out if you haven't seen that yet.
I was going to say,
I love him.
Have you seen the latest Mission Impossible film yet?
Fallout? No, not yet. No.
Is he in it? Yeah,
is he in it?
Yeah, he's a character in it. But what I love, there's a scene that was in all the trailers where he's fighting and he reloads his arms. He literally goes like that, and it's the best thing ever.
It sounds like the worst thing, but I'm sure
proper 80s action. You know, that just kind of you'll love it. You'll love it.
Meet My Friends, Law and Order.
Yeah, you will absolutely love it. You'll make it out, you won't love it, but it's kind of you'll mention about me like, "Oh, Jonny, I've watched it. It's great. Love it."
Okay, cool. We'll mention it on the. I am meaning to. The reason why I haven't watched it's on Netflix, but I want it on Blu-ray because it just looks better.
I didn't know it was on Netflix anyway, but okay.
Yeah, it's been on Netflix for ages. Yeah.
Cool.
So the again, right? Again, this the deepness of the DC films. Can we just talk about that?
Yep.
Lois saves everyone by making Clark remember. Love, like, as in, like, she makes him remember, like, what he was before. Like, love prevails. Like, the butterfly on Superman's finger, like, it shows, like, humanity, like, and it shows that, like, that scene in itself, like, I really loved that.
I can't help but smirk. Do you think at one point they were going to get Batman to shout Martha again, but because of the fan backlash after the first time, they thought we're not just even going to go there?
Tell me about that, by the way, because you mentioned Martha, like, I thought I didn't understand the backlash.
So, okay, jokes aside, I love Batman v Superman, but the fight essentially between the two ends when Batman realises that Superman is actually human. He's not, but he relates to humanity because he has a human mother called Martha, which is the same name as Batman's mother.
Yes,
and that's the link. Now, it's very Greek tragedy. It's very OTT, very Shakespearean, you know, Martha, why did you say that name? And it's very taken very seriously, very overacted.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Shakespearean now, almost.
100%. And people at the time complained saying it was so ridiculous. But I think, again, the message was lost of, it wasn't the fact he said Martha, it was what it meant. It's not what he said, it's how he said it, you know?
Yeah,
but all the deeper meaning behind it, it's one of those. And it was really annoying that the film always got bashed with, the Martha thing's rubbish. And it's like, okay, it didn't work for you. I had no issue with it, to be completely honest. But
I didn't notice it.
Yeah. Do you know what it boils down to? If you're in Snyder's world, which is very dark and gritty, and people say, it lacks humour, it lacks this, it lacks that. I don't care. I'm so invested in the world he's shown me. Yeah. I'm not bothered. And I think
it's not a comedy, mate.
So many people have come out against the Snyder Cut as well, saying, it's so self-important and it's so indulgent. Yes, it is. And I'll tell you why it's self-indulgent, because this guy's been given $70 million to go back and finish something. And he's done a 4-hour version because they've essentially said, how many times are you going to get given the chance to have final? Never.
Listen.
So I watched the 4 hours. I took all the slow motion, which people said was gratuitous, and I messaged you saying I'm lapping it up. I don't care.
24 minutes. There's 24 minutes of slow motion,
and it was 24 brilliant minutes. I have no qualms against it.
I'll tell you why it's self-indulgent, right? And this is like the man was trying to make a film.
Yeah.
Lost his daughter of 11 years old, and now he's I'm sure he's never ever going to get over it. Now he's able to work again. He's not paid. He wasn't paid for this.
No.
So he took no salary for it. He said, I just want to do it.
No,
I just want to do it.
And I want final cut. The only thing, the only stipulation was, I don't interfere again. Just let me get on with it. And I tell you what, and the film is actually dedicated to his daughter. And
Autumn, it made me. I seen it at the end after 4 hours.
Yeah, and that made it maybe sounds pathetic. So obviously I don't know him, but this must be for him some form of what's the word? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I know
Like
exactly
catharsis or whatever, to finally have it out. And, the reason he left the production was because him and his wife didn't want to have to fight and battle and argue for the next 12 months to get this film released the way they wanted it to. So they stepped away because they had a more important thing going on in their life.
Yeah,
so to
sad.
then get the retribution or whatever you would do, or redemption.
We're still not fighting. Yeah, it is. No, I guess. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say, I'm just, the word escapes me.
So, I'm sorry, listeners, because it's probably infuriating. But my point is,
they're going to be screaming out to their car stereos. This is what you mean, Jonny and Jamie.
To be able to actually get that out there, I don't care. He could honestly, if it's 5 hours, I'll probably still be behind it, because I just think if this is honestly you trying to say, here's for every single person who cared this much. I'm not condoning all the people who did release Snyder Cut, because there's a
lot of toxicity,
and we should know. But I think, again, fair balance. It wasn't everybody, but the fact he's been able to do this, we should appreciate it and take it for what it is. And honestly, I'm glad I've got to see this vision. People kind of say that maybe this is going to happen for loads of films now. There's got to be enough money for an interest for it to happen. Like, I joked with you saying, let's see the Schumacher cut of Forever, the dark version. There's not enough people to warrant the money.
I want to see it. I love
Batman
Forever.
How many Joel Schumacher Batman Forever fans are there? Probably not enough to make HBO say, yeah, let's do that. But there we are.
It's really basically, it's really, really nice that this has happened. Would people's 9 out of 10 reviews be 9 out of 10 had it happened first time around? No. It would have been. It's probably added another 1.5, another 2 to their mark. So the 9 out of 10 probably would have been a 7.5 or maybe even an 8. I don't know. I really, really enjoyed it.
Did you prefer it to Batman v Superman? Because some people are actually saying they far prefer it, and my stance.
I need to watch it again. I have to watch. So I cannot possibly comment. And all I know is that me and Vicky went to the cinema originally, one of our first dates. Originally to see Batman vs Superman, and both of us didn't really like it.
Really?
I only really that's the original cut. It wasn't,
which was short and a bit.
It's fine.
Not short, sorry,
it's
but
fine.
There was plot missing. It was again staggering.
I also took it to see Suicide Squad.
Oh no,
we're still together. That was good.
You're lucky that kept going.
So I only recently watched Batman vs Superman Ultimate Edition. I didn't realize how much it would add. I didn't realize it's quite confused. There is a little bit confusing in places, and some of it does. It's not certainly nowhere near perfect. It does feel like it's a bunch of random cuts at times, but I need to watch Justice League again or another time to really sort of drink it in.
I think a lot of people talk about Snyder that sometimes he doesn't do well with the exposition. So actually there's quite a lot of scenes in Snyder films. I can't disagree with this, which is basically,
I can't disagree.
There's not a lot of walking and talking, or you remember we discussed before with James Cameron films, the action, information coming through the action. So Carl Reese is explaining in a car chase what the Terminator is. So it's not just boring exposition, it's done a thing. Snyder will do a flashback and we've just said about Wonder Woman doing the long speech, and it goes on for 10 minutes showing the flashback of the wars, etc. And there's a lot of scenes of people posing and standing around. Now for me, I see it as a choice because in the comics a lot of it is posed and it looks like a panel, and the framing for me represents that. I don't know if that is the case, but that's just how I see it, so I don't care. And
and
it's a bit like when I watch 300. I know 300 is not a good film. Doesn't change.
Excuse me.
No.
I love 300.
No, so do I.
As Sparta.
Scottish. James Beard there, loving that. But anyway, what I mean by that is, we're on a film review podcast. I can't honestly say to people 300 is one of the best films, but I love the visual style of it. I think okay. I love the visual style of it, and it's got something about it. I really enjoyed the Snyder Cut. The main thing I liked about the Snyder Cut, though, is the fight at the end of the original Justice League with the Joss Whedon version is essentially Batman, Aquaman, Flash, and Wonder Woman.
Sorry, you said it like the Adam West one. Batman, as in, it's fine. I love it.
They go to fight Steppenwolf, who's been collecting the mother boxes, and essentially Superman at this point, you just talked about the idea that love is what brings him back, and he finds Amy Adams, they fly away to the farm, and he remembers the life he had. Superman doesn't even know, he knows what's going on with Steppenwolf, but he doesn't even know directly. No one spoke to him about what's happening or anything. So the superheroes aren't even sure he'll turn up. So basically, in the Joss Whedon version, there's this big fight where they're basically just wasting time till Superman arrives. Whilst in the whole Snyder Cut, it's like, we don't think Superman's going to turn up, guys. So we've got a plan, and
he's running through fields of wheat.
I thought you were about to say no. I thought you were about to say he's running late, and he was running very late.
No, he's running through fields of wheat, which was a quote from our
former Prime
Minister Theresa May.
Theresa May. What a niche reference. Excellent.
What she said. What was it? The question she was asked. What's the naughtiest thing you've done? Well, we used to run through fields of wheat. That's so funny.
To be fair,
anyway.
But I remember
he's in Kansas though, isn't he? So we're waiting for Superman. And
he's rock up, literally.
Yeah, it's just turn up whenever he's finished stroking the wheat. He's in Kansas, isn't he?
He's standing. He's genuinely. He's remembering at this point. He's by visiting his childhood home. He's remembering.
Yeah. He's dressed like me. He's dressed exactly like how I. Apart from the
shirt.
Yeah,
you don't look as good as he did when he did not have the shirt on, mate. I'm sorry.
How dare you? No, I look exactly like him, just with probably shorter and. I like beer. That's what I said. It's just like beer. I don't have like 16 pack.
No.
He looks amazing, doesn't he? To be fair,
he does. But yeah, Amy Adams, her character just brings him literally back to earth, and there's She doesn't. The thing I'm actually trying to remember. He basically turns around and says to her in this version of the film, "They've brought me back for a reason, so I can't just be standing around on this farm."
Imagine it's
literally just, "I'll see you later."
He brought me back for a reason, and then he's cuts to him just sitting in the house watching the newest season of South Park.
Yeah, So essentially he joins in the battle at the end. But as I was saying, in the Whedon version, the battle plan is literally wait till Superman turns up and he'll kick everyone's backside for us. Was in this version, the team have a lot more to do. The only thing I find with when you put Batman in the Justice League, and this is within the comics, I know what you're gonna say, and within the films, is Batman is obviously only human. So when everyone's kicking ass and doing all their superpowers, he's just basically shooting people with a laser in the corner. It's a bit naff. It is.
I really struggled with that. So
and he's got his goggles on, like Watchmen goggles, which was a weird choice, but anyway.
Oh no, what I love, Watchmen's probably my favourite Zack Snyder film.
You love the goggles?
No, I don't. I'm just, you mentioned Watchmen, and you mentioned Watchmen, and my ears pricked up.
I like Watchmen. I've watched the full version of that as well, which is also about 3 hours 40 minutes.
Well, it's ridiculous.
Anyway,
it's weird because everyone that listens to this podcast, everyone that likes DC probably would say, I'd say 99% would say, oh yeah, my favourite's Batman, because he's the one, isn't he? He's the one. He's the most. I guess he's the most interesting. Superman's always been really hard to put on film. Can I just say, if you want to make a good Superman film, revolve it around Clark Kent. Let's see a Clark Kent film.
100%, because we never do that, really.
No, we don't.
I feel like Man of Steel ish does it, but then it's the setting up before he works at the Daily Planet. We never actually ever see that, really.
Yeah, listen, I've got no idea about writing films, and I've got no idea about shooting them, but make it about Clark Kent. There's my idea. I'm like that Cartman in that South Park episode, Awesome-O. Adam Sandler. Every single thing that they get him to write, every single film has got Adam Sandler in it. Adam Sandler is Superman. That's what we'd like to see.
Nicolas Cage, but that was a missed opportunity. Anyway.
How could that work now? Could it work now?
No.
It couldn't, could it? No, it's terrible. Unless it was an indie film.
No. But the point being, what we're saying is watching an unpowered Batman around all
these... It's bad, man.
It's hard for us to take, because it's just... Yes, he's the genius, and yes, he set them all up together, and yes, he's funded all the equipment or what have you, but...
His superpower, he's rich.
Yeah, and they acknowledge that, but essentially he drives in with a bat tank, he shoots up a load of an old power plant, and then basically he's waiting for an alien to drop his rifle, and then he picks it up and shoots it a bit.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard to imagine in the future films, if you go cosmic, which is essentially what's happened, if you make it a cosmic adventure, what can they do? It reminded me of in Avengers 1 when Hawkeye's there and you're thinking, what are you doing, really?
Yeah, well, he's like the Iron... But Batman is exactly like the Iron Man, but without the suit, isn't he? He's the billionaire. He's got the technology. So when he's in his little the bat digger or whatever it is,
yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Like, the bat digger. I'm imagining a JCB with like a little bat logo on it now. But anyway, carry on.
That's you. JCB's you.
No, I meant
at jcb.video.
Excellent.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, just imagine him with his little bat digger, and it just doesn't work, does it?
No, and I think again, look, we're nitpicking. I mean, this is why I kind
Hawkeye would be dead within 2 seconds. Yeah. Thanos would just look at him and he'd die of fright.
Yeah. But I think realistically, this is why I wanted another Batman film with just watching him do normal underground stuff with someone that wasn't supernatural. Yeah, because if the Ben Affleck Batmans had carried on, I think that's what they would have done. They would have had grounded ones in the middle to go, look, he is still relevant. It's not just a case of every time, well, we don't really need Batman to bring us together. So I think that's the only thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, without us going into it, listen, the heroes win. Of course they do.
And the fight is so much better in this version, though, because
Snyder, he isn't. I'm not being funny.
The action in that scene, it reminded me of 300. It's insane because the teamwork's brilliant. Because I think Superman like punches him so hard he goes into the ground. He cuts off his horn and removes it. And then he then like hits him so hard that Wonder Woman won't, and he's heading towards this portal which has to be closed. And of course, Wonder Woman runs up and then like beheads him, and his head lands through the other side of the portal as it closes.
Yes,
and he gets trodden on like a football. And it reminds me of just it's absolutely overkill. But after 4 hours, it felt so earned. Yeah, it felt so justified. I was just like, fine. Absolutely fine.
Yeah,
in a good way, by the way. Not a sarcastic way.
Yeah, I love Wonder Woman in this. Like, she's so
brilliant.
Good, isn't she? Like, she's like almost the star of the show for me.
I haven't seen Wonder Woman 84, just for context.
Neither have I.
I've not heard positive things.
No, so. I've not heard positive things. I will.
Will you watch it?
That's a long exhale from me. Like, I will watch it. Like, I was too busy watching. Like, I was watching Kiss Me Deadly by Samuel Fuller.
Yeah,
that's my thing. Like, I've said it time and time again. I'm so tired of superhero films as a genre. Like, it's so.
Can we talk about, because I think it's important, because we've the end of this film has some additional scenes which I think are important to talk about, and
they are.
Jared Leto is back as the Joker. Now, Suicide Squad, speaking of director's cuts and directors having their visions absolutely butchered, David Ayer actually had it as bad as the Joss Whedon incident, because his version of Suicide Squad was absolutely butchered. If you compare the first trailer of that film to what came out, it's unrecognisable. It was such a dark... anyway, without getting into that, I think Jared Leto had a lot of stuff shot and was sidelined.
Oh, really? Okay, I was going to ask you about that. So I was going to ask your opinion. Like, what do you know the whole damage thing over his head and all that, and the terrible tattoos and the gold teeth? No. So is that Jared Leto's idea, or is that the studio? What do you think?
I don't know. Do you know the answer? Is that...
no, I don't know. No, this is not a Jeopardy moment for you.
No. Like, so I thought it was a Jeopardy moment.
You're going to survive this week. Like, you're all good. I've got no more quiz questions for you. But yeah, so Jared Leto, we've always known him as a bit of a weird guy, like in terms of his ideas and stuff. He is almost a method actor as well, I believe. I didn't know whether that was his vision, because I've heard like people were saying, "Oh, yeah, wait till you see like Jared Leto's Joker, it's crazy and all this," and then it was really bad.
I think though, I didn't love his Joker, but I think anyone who was coming after Heath Ledger was going to struggle. I just think, what were you going to do? So he tried to, and if you like it or not, he did something completely different. And I think that's what the Joker's always done. Like Cesar Romero to Nicholson, very different. To Heath Ledger, very different again. Yeah, Mark Hamill, very different again. And that's kind of... I thought Jared Leto was the idea of a modern gangster. You know, but like gangster rapper. Like you can see him in the back of a music video, like fanning about... Do you know what I mean? Just that kind of thing. It never bothered me, honestly, to be honest. But
I can't imagine the pressure that comes behind that character now. because
So
because
much.
of Heath Ledger. Because of Heath Ledger, because of Jack Nicholson, like the pressure.
Sorry,
must be
Joaquin
crazy.
Phoenix
It's almost
as
like,
well. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So in the back of
Casual.
my head, right. In the back of my head for the last 2 minutes, I've been like, there's someone else that's really big, but I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, right. The pressure now, right, behind that character, like Joaquin Phoenix, Heath Ledger, and Nicholson. Jesus Christ, like, you must be sitting there and be like, what can I do differently? How can I do it better? I don't know what to do. Like, and it definitely is, isn't it? Like, so it's like, it's almost like you're panicking. He's probably sitting there, like, Jared Leto's sitting there, like, I'm just going to put damage on my forehead. I'm just going to be crazy. I'm just going to be like a pure gangster. Like, that's in it. Like, he's probably gone through about 500 different scenarios. Apparently, no, I was going to say locked himself away. That was Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger locked himself away.
Yeah, but I think Jared Leto did do weird things on set. And look, I'm not phased. I'll be honest. I didn't mind his interpretation, and the fact he was getting a second shot, I was pleased with, because we never really saw him and Batman together. There is a car chase in Suicide Squad, I know, and Batman's on top of the car, but we never see them talk to each other. So
I mean, technically, we don't see them talk to each other in this one. Tell us about that.
With COVID, obviously, they've had to film things via green screen and remote, etc. So Ben Affleck's Batman's having a conversation with Jared Leto's Joker, but obviously they've never been able to meet because of
this bothered me.
Now, the way it was shot, it was basically shot reverse shot, so shot over the shoulder. So you kind of see.
So you're gonna have to explain that to people.
Okay.
They might not.
Okay, so it's basically normally when you watch a conversation, one person's on the left, one person's on the right, and when you do the shot reverse shot, and the other person who's on the left would still be on the left, but you're looking at their face instead of behind them. So essentially, you can use a double, or on green screen you'd key it, so they wouldn't have to be in front of each other, essentially.
And and a lot of the time you find, guys, and this is really apparent in Lord of the Rings. Like, a lot of the time when you've got that over the shoulder shot, it's actually not the real actor.
Someone completely different.
Yeah, it's basically someone wearing a wig, and it looks ridiculous.
The worst thing about a 4K re-release is that. Like, honestly, just stuff like that. You know
the stuff with Bilbo Baggins and stuff. In Lord of the Rings, when you would never ever notice it until someone mentions it, and once they've mentioned it, I'm like, that is a bad wig. Like, it's really bad.
It's a bit like the old stunt doubles in films. Like, once you clock it, and you go with it. And
definitely. Like, you see that they've got like the definitely one of the things that comes to mind. I know I've mentioned it already. Terminator 2, the motorbike scene. Yeah. It's like it's definitely Tom Cruise. The guy on that motorbike is definitely Tom Cruise doing that scene. Like, that was a joke.
I love in old Star Trek, like, they have a fight scene and the stunt people are paid to be on set to do the fight. So basically it will cut from William Shatner to just completely different bloke with like a different build in a fight. And obviously,
but why though?
Back in the day, like on TV, like the resolution and whatever, you probably just wouldn't notice it as much as now. It's like on a 50-inch TV in HD, you're like, that's not the same guy.
Definitely YouTube William Shatner's fight moves.
Oh, it's brilliant. He does like a judo chop with two hands and just brilliant.
And he also does like weird like wall kick.
Oh, I used to be obsessed with that. Do you remember when he used to be obsessed with that? No, he does a thing where it's like, you know, in the Matrix when Trinity runs up the wall and does the kick. He does the most what a normal person would do if they tried to do that without wires.
And what a normal person would do that has had zero training and is slightly overweight would do.
It reminds me of, like, you know, in parkour, but in the office thing. It's not far off that, actually.
It's really bad. Anyway, so I mean
Jared Leto's Joker.
It bothered me. Okay, so if we're talking about Jared Leto's Joker, let me just say I really did much prefer this version in the Justice League Snyder Cut.
Agree.
I liked his little laugh. It was a little bit more Mark Hamill-esque, I thought. I just really liked it. I much preferred the look of it, like the smeared lipstick. I quite liked the look of him.
The longer hair and the
it's way better because it was less try hard, I guess. But like I say, pressure. So much pressure behind that character now. That character has big boots to fill.
What infuriates me from that scene, though, is the film up until that point is self-indulgent, but I feel like it was all originally intended. It should end. There's a scene where they're all together on a hero shot on top of the building.
Yeah, it's Return of the King, isn't it?
It should end there. And to be honest, like, that's where it cuts. And if you cut it there, I think people would give it better reviews. people are slating
probably.
it more for this tacked on scene. Now, part of me loves the tacked on scene because I'm annoyed that I never got to see Batfleck with Jared Leto on screen, and now I have, kind of, even though they weren't there. But Batman, Joker's trying to wind up Batman, and he's basically referencing Jason Todd, which was a big thing in The Dark Knight Returns. There's the costume of the Robin who died. And
so if anyone wants to dive if someone wants to dive into that lore, Jason. So there's been many Robins. Jason Todd was one of the Robins. Dick Grayson, Jason Todd. There's been another one. Again, it's been a while since I've delved into this, but go and read Death in the Family. That is the DC comic where Jason Todd. I mean, we've just said it. Yeah, something bad happens to him, he dies. I'm just gonna say, they're human beings. So Jason Todd was a Robin, and he dies at the hands of the Joker. It's called Death in the Family. Go and look at it. It's actually a really, really good. It's a good book.
I think I've borrowed it off you previously. I'm pretty sure. Did you read it?
No, I think you have. Yeah. I've got one. It's on my bookshelf right now. So you probably have. Yeah. The front of the book is Batman holding
literally
Robin.
A bloodied body.
Yeah,
it's grim really as well.
Sad. It's really grim.
Is it 70s or 80s that one?
I think it's 80s.
Yeah. Feels
but
80s with the tone and being a bit
grittier. When you go and like grab the comic, don't expect to see this fantastic artwork. It's a little bit older than the other ones.
So the Joker, Jared Leto's Joker, references the fact that he's killed Robin. He says, why would you send a boy wonder to do the job of a man trying to wind up Batman? And Batman essentially says, when Harley Quinn died in my arms, I promised her that I would kill you, which obviously is against Batman's mantra. Maybe not so much Zack Snyder's Batman's mantra, but anyway. And he said, and I've promised her I'll make it slow. And you just feel... I actually liked the acting between them. I know you're not too bothered. I thought there was good confrontation, a good setup of the relationship. It didn't bother me. I don't know.
So the reason, and I guess the reason why it bothered me was because I knew beforehand that they'd never met. So
I didn't. I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't care.
I wish I didn't know. So I'd already heard that they filmed the extra scenes without meeting each other. So they filmed them, and that blows my mind because part of me wishes
you can't tell on screen though. Like digitally, you wouldn't be able to know. I think you have to look for it.
Technology is amazing. That's one of the sad things about technology. Like, as in, it's amazing for everything. These certain bits never would have happened. They wouldn't have done this. Like, they'd have just got the actors in. I know COVID's a big thing as well, and money as well. But
I think COVID, to be fair, was the main one for this one. I don't think it was a main thing, really.
I much preferred it. It was much better. And go read Death in the Family, and you'll know a bit more backstory about that.
The only issue with that is, as we said, when it should have ended, is because this scene is in there, it's teasing something we're probably never going to see. And I think that is frustrating because this scene takes place in the nightmare future, which was teased in the previous film, which we know essentially will happen. The idea is Superman will go bad if Lois Lane dies. And it's hinted at multiple times that in one of the multi-universes within DC that this will eventually happen. And then the films will go back and stop this from happening, essentially.
Yeah. Well, no, exactly. You mentioned now about that. So Views by Quinn writes in. Quinn is actually a friend of the show, like, lovely guy. Go check him out. It's lit on Instagram at Views by Quinn. Go find him. He said, after finally releasing an arguably great film, now Quinn isn't the biggest DC fan, to be honest. He likes DC. He likes DC, but he doesn't like the films. Much prefers Marvel, but he's done a U-turn. He watched the Snyder Cut once, didn't really like it that much. Watched it again and loved it.
I love that. The fact he's managed to watch it twice in that time impresses me as well.
Jesus, it's 8 hours, isn't it? It's a whole working day. And I know he works a lot. So after finally releasing an arguably great film, who has the brighter future, DC or Marvel?
I'll be honest, I'm personally far more invested than seeing what Snyder would have carried on doing than I am particularly bothered about what's next in Marvel. I enjoyed WandaVision, which is the start of the next phase or the end of the previous. Yeah. But I'll be honest, like Jamie, I'm a bit burnt out with superhero films. The ones I enjoy more so now are the ones that have lower stakes and not end of the world. And my only problem with this Justice League stuff is it would still be more end of the world stuff. But for Snyder's version of it, if I'm going to see anybody's version of that, I want to see his. And that's how I'll leave it.
So for me, I think the brighter future, there's different ways we can tackle this. Marvel, nothing about their future catalogue excites me at all. There is do you know what? Black Widow. That's the only one I'm really looking forward to. There's a few that are like Thor: Love and Thunder.
Not bothered. The main one that stuck out for me is
bothered. Dismiss me.
So harsh.
Toss me away like a half-eaten sausage roll, Jonny.
The thing I was going to say, the one that stood out for me is if they're doing the multiverse for Spider-Man, then I would be keen because I loved Into the Spider-Verse, and if they're doing anything similar
but that's by Sony. That was from Sony.
No, I know, but if they're doing anything similar to that,
you mean like Tobey Maguire
and I liked Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, so
yes.
I don't think the films are great, but I like.
So did I.
You know,
I
it's
love
one
him.
of those.
I thought he was like brilliant. Yeah. Nearly said the F word.
Yeah. So I just
flipping brilliant.
I'm interested in seeing that, but I don't even know if that's actually happening. It's one of those things which it seems to be rumored about so much. I don't know if it's even a thing. You know?
I mean, I don't like Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. I think
Spider-Man. Do you not like his face when he's stressed out? He always has that baby face.
I hate his face. The second, obviously, everyone knows Spider-Man 2, and that the Raimi trilogy is really, really good. Apart the third is bogus. What?
No, I agree. You were like. I'm remembering the emo Spider-Man so when he's like doing the 10. Anyway,
and I think the reason why people are so upset by that is that Venom is one of the greatest villains.
But Raimi didn't like him, and you can tell from the film he wasn't bothered.
Did
about
he not?
Him
right,
in. The
okay.
studio
I didn't know that.
Again, here we go. Here's a lesson on studio interference. The studio said, "Put in Venom. Venom's really popular. People like Venom," and he said, "I don't want to do Venom." But he said, "I'll put him in if I really have to."
Wow.
And that's why we get the rubbish version of Venom we get in that
He's not
film.
just really popular, he's amazing. Like, Venom's like probably, apart from the Hunter, what's his name? Something the Hunter? I can't remember. Kill me now, viewers.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Jamie knows more about DC lore than I do, to be completely honest. So
I mean, I'm talking about Marvel, so
that's true. Yeah. Oh God, I'm gone. So gone.
You're all right, mate. No. Joe, guys, give Jonny, send him some big hugs because he's had a busy week. When I say busy, we're lucky we're recording this because he's had a long week.
Thank you.
And you have, yeah. You were looking at me there like I was going to say something bad.
I was really worried then, but anyway, carry on.
No, don't worry. No. There's no need to worry about me. Like I was saying, the Spider, like that Raimi trilogy is really good. I don't like Tobey Maguire. I think so. The DC universe has a brighter future if Snyder is allowed to carry on and wants to carry on. If Snyder isn't allowed to carry on and doesn't want to carry on, then like both futures of Marvel and DC, I can't be bothered with.
I would say actually that Marvel's is probably looking brightest because it's going to make the most money. So it depends how you want to look at it. But what I would say is, jokes aside, that Aquaman, I think, was one of the most successful DC films. And it was, honestly, parts of that film was like...
You might want to Google that. I'm joking, I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure that in the Chinese market, it made a ton of money.
Oh, okay. So I thought Shazam was like...
No, you might be right. Okay, I'll take it back. But what I would say is, they've released lighter films since, which have done well. So
Shazam, Birds of Prey. In fact, Birds of Prey might even be the highest gross.
And again, you know, there's a new Suicide Squad film coming out, which looks very
by James
Guardians
Gunn.
of the Galaxy-esque, a more violent
because
version.
It's James Gunn. Like they're trying to poach the directors from Marvel to copy it, and I don't want it. Like, I just don't want it.
Need, but I think for that reason, if Aquaman has done as well as I think it has done...
It has. No, you're right, and I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. So was it in the Chinese market, they made a lot, didn't it? That was the big thing or something.
Mate, it made 1.1 billion.
Oh, wow. That's even more than I thought.
It made more than Dark Knight Rises.
That's insane.
And it made more than Joker. So Joker made 1 billion.
Yeah, but think about how much less Joker was made for. So the returns would just be insane.
Just so you know, here you go, all the viewers.
Sorry, go on.
Jonny, I apologise.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'll take that. There's a rarity in itself. So
everyone that knows me will say the same thing.
No,
I never apologise.
if a film like Aquaman, which was lighter, Aquaman was not great. There's parts of it.
So it was slated, wasn't it?
Aquaman reminded me of a Star Wars prequel. Make of that what you will.
What, because of the ridiculous amount of green screen?
There's an underwater
Bad
world
acting?
which is like where the Gungans live.
Ah, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, all that. But there's a lot of stuff like some of the prequel stuff. I love the visual imagery, but I don't like the acting and other stuff going on. And I think Aquaman for me was similar. There's some bits which were like visually really interesting, really stunning, but also some of the suits looked a bit Power Ranger-y. Also, I used to love Power Rangers, so let's not knock it too far. But it just, I don't know. And it's one of those again that maybe the reason that it was more successful because it was lighter. And it's like if you make a sequel to Aquaman now, or if you make a sequel to whatever comes next, how can you not reference the Snyder Cut when the Snyder Cut's probably going to make... Do you think Snyder Cut's going to make enough money for it to warrant anything else? I just don't know what was
Absolutely,
happening.
no.
It's crazy. I don't know.
150% that film is going to make way more money than it cost.
Because in total, it's taken 2 attempts to make this film, and they've spent nearly, what was it, like $400 million in total.
So it made no.
No?
So no. So it
70
cost,
million on reshoot.
Sorry, Matt. Sorry, I was like no. So it cost 100 million to make.
But the original version.
I'm sure the original version cost 100 million, and then the additional bits cost 70.
Okay, fine. I'll take that if that is true. I thought it was even more than that because they spent 100 million on the original version, then they spent another 100 odd million doing weed and stuff, and then another 70 million doing this. I thought, but maybe that's wrong. I don't know. Anyway, they've spent.
Oh, right. Okay. So it cost 300 million to make.
There you go. Yeah,
League.
so that's about right. Because three bites of the cherry. You've got got the first time probably 100 odd mil, 100 odd mil's worth of reshoots, and then the 70 mil budget for getting it released on this.
No, 300 million pounds for the first edition.
Oh, whoa!
And then 70 million for for Snyder.
So essentially,
I think
it's around
Snyder's
400
version.
mil.
I think Snyder's version will profit massively.
Do you?
It's just so you know, it's all. I'm pretty sure it's already the highest grossing. It's the highest grossing like
digital
VOD
release.
Yeah.
Has it beaten Trolls 2 yet, which was massive?
Yes,
ages.
I think yeah. So
honestly, I'm not joking, guys. For listeners, like Trolls 2 was like one of the biggest releases, wasn't it?
And that's the reason why there was massive controversy from cinemas against. Is it Universal?
No.
Paramount?
Who was it? No, it's Warner Brothers because Christopher Nolan's separated from Warner Brothers over it, didn't it? He was going to separate with Warner Brothers because they were going to release stuff at the same time on their streaming platform. And Wonder Woman 84 was one of the first things that came off this, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, exactly. So that I think it's definitely going to make money in terms of. So it cost 70 million. I can almost guarantee it's going to make, because it's going to obviously be released again in cinemas, 100%.
Do you think it will though? Like
yes, it's got Oh, defo,
okay.
yeah. I think people are going to be gagging for it. Like I will, I'll go.
I'm already pre-ordering.
I'm a
my
walking
Blu-ray.
contradiction, by the way. I know. I'm so burnt out, and then I'm like, I'll go. Like,
yeah, but you just want to see Batfleck on the big screen, which is also completely understandable.
And again,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But to be fair, there's like a steelbook edition. I think you sent me the other day, already available for pre-order.
Yes, Justice League 4K.
You know, if that's going to cost 20, 30 quid, I'm already going to pay for it. You know, so it's one of those.
Yeah. Well, I guess it is what it is. And guys, we're not pairing it this week. I'm sorry. You can obviously see by the runtime that this has been a long convo, we're not pairing it because it's a 4-hour film. It's like, do you know what I mean?
Actually, we're
What do you want
pairing it
from
with
us?
the Whedon cut, so you have to basically watch both of them and then compare. No, I'm joking.
No, we're
don't
not
do
doing
that.
that.
Don't act. Honestly, if you've not, for some weird reason, you've decided to listen to a Spoilercast special about Justice League, and
You
you've
must
not
love us a
actually-
lot.
and you've
You
not
must
actually
really-
seen it,
yeah.
please do not watch the Joss Whedon one. Just watch the Zack Snyder one and be done with it. You know.
Well, I would be amazed if people,
I don't think that's gonna be
people
the case.
listen to this that
funny
haven't
if
seen
it
the
is.
Snyder Cut. I would really.
Please write in.
Let us know.
If you've listened to this and you have no interest in Justice League, please write in because that's actually
Give you a
hilarious.
shout out. I'll send you some pin badges. We're getting some pin badges made. Well, not from the last quote I had from. Let's not even go there. Over 100 quid. Give me a break, mate. I want to send them out for free to our most dedicated listeners. Anyway, guys, I've been at Movies in a Nutshell, and this I've been obviously co-hosting as per usual with.
At jcb.video.
And the next episode's going to be about The Lost Boys, one of my all-time favourites. We're going to talk about more Schumacher. Johnny loved it.
I can't wait to talk about Lost Boys. I'm more Josh
You're going to
Schumacher
probably
stuff.
watch it again, aren't you?
I've got to watch it again because
Yeah.
it was a
I've
while
had-
ago since we've changed it now. So
I've watched it about 15 times, and I've held off. Wait till you hear the pairing as well. It's going to be good fun. I'm excited. Next episode is Lost Boys. It's episode 10. Should it be something more special? It can't get more special than Lost Boys because it's one of my absolute favourites, and I bullied Johnny again. So, as per usual, go on your Apple podcasts, give us 5-star ratings. Johnny's only just give us a 5-star rating himself. What a joke. So Johnny, obviously we'll make him give us a 5-star rating. So,
I just felt very self-indulgent giving myself a 5-star review. So I held off a little while. But
he was giving me a 5-star review,
Okay.
as I deserve. We only accept 5-star ratings. See you next time. Cue that music.